Okay, hey guys. Hope all is well with you all in this crazy times we're having right now. But anyway, I hope you all noticed in your OneNote I did try to correct the bell ringer, the worksheets, etc. So I wanted to kind of go over some of the common questions that people missed. So first, though, I want to reiterate what we talked about in class. I guess it was last week, where when you have a reference type, again, like up here, I've got pet. Pet is a more general abstract reference type, right? And I'm actually creating a dog. So the main thing that I see people getting confused about or missing is that when you're using your reference type is different from your object type. When the methods are called for that variable, the methods have to exist in the reference type or they can't use them. But if they exist, they're going to be executed in the object type. And actually, you guys are doing pretty good with this part of it, but several of you missed questions referring to like this part of it, okay? The object type constructor is always executed. One thing I may not have stressed too much is that it will also always go back, even if the constructor of an object type does not call super, it will go back and execute the parent's constructor anyway. So even if it's not written there, written in the constructor, super is implied. And we're going to go over that in some examples in a second too. Okay, so trying to not make this too long, let's take a look at the bell ringer first. So bell ringer, most of you, I think pretty much everybody missed number one, C. So, and this is what I was just referring to. So you see that that the public class base has set X, right? And public class derived extends base, and it has set Y. But when we make this item, which is new, the reference variable is base, even though the object type is derived. So first of all, this first command definitely cannot be executed, right? Because you can't use the variable name. You can't access a variable name like that. So that's wrong. But then item.setY, it cannot access set Y because it is a variable type base. So it doesn't exist for item. It won't find it. It can do set X though, because again, base class has set X. So the only command there that will compile is the third one. So again, and that's been kind of a common mistake you guys have made over all of this. So, and it is kind of strange, but keep that in mind. I think everybody got D correct, and I think pretty much everyone got E. I think one of you may have circled E but written D or whatever. But anyway, when you think about animal, bear, and zoo, a bear is an animal and a zoo contains many animals, including bears. So again, the relationship we're looking for is animal. Bears are animals, right? So animal could be abstract, and then bears would extend animals, and then the zoo would just be a collection of animals. So, and again, most of you, I think you all got that right, and that comes up again in one of our worksheets. Okay, all right, so then let's take a look at the polymorphism worksheet. And again, a couple of these. So again, I got these from an AP workshop I went to, so I was going off of their, answer keys. And honestly, I wanted to test out these a little bit myself and understand them a little bit more. And I encourage you guys to do this too while we're trying to kind of, while we're remotely learning. If you want to, I went ahead and I went into BlueJ and I just started creating some of these classes. So just to check, just so I felt like when I'm talking to you guys, I know more what I'm talking about. So feel free to do that. Like I just went in, made an animal class, made a mammal class. I had to rename dog and cat just because we've already used dog and cat over here before. But I just kind of went in and started, creating mammal extends animal, and I gave it the move method. I just called dog WS for dog worksheet and put a bark. You know, so again, I was just kind of trying to test all this. So feel free to do that and discover it for yourself. And then when I ran it, I was able to see if they had compile errors or not. So as I said in my email, when it comes to these grades, I'm not really worried about, I mean, on the bell ringers, I definitely do not want you guys accessing other materials, but when you're working on these worksheets, anything it takes for you guys to understand it and to learn, you know, please feel free to go with it. Okay, so when it comes to the polymorphic worksheet, sorry, that's not that, over here. So they called number 4 invalid, but honestly, it works. So, and I corrected. So that works. When you want to, basically what this is saying, and again, a lot of this is in your text, or your textbook only covers this very briefly on page 389, and it doesn't get into much detail. That it kind of opens it up, an explanation again, but it doesn't give a whole lot of detail. So when we're going through these, 3 is invalid, again, because animal cannot move, right? So when you have created it with an animal, the only access animal can do up here is eat. So that takes, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but on 4, so we created, so A1 was an animal. We wanted to, we created M1 as a mammal, and we can move a higher order or more generic form. We can cast it into a more specific form, but we have to cast it, okay? And then once we cast it, it can do the move. So this number 4 is actually valid. And then that's it. I kind of wrote down what you guys missed. So a couple of you missed 4. A couple of you missed 6. So actually, so here we have that A2 is a animal type, object, reference type animal, object mammal. We cannot move A2 into, again, we're trying to go from a more general animal into a mammal. And in order to do that, you have to cast. So 6 is invalid, 7 is valid because it requires a cast. Let's see, and then 9, again, M2 cannot purr because mammals can't purr, only cats can. 10, the same kind of thing. We can make, we're okay making M3, calling a reference type mammal object cat, but we cannot move it into a cat because, again, we're going from a more general to a specific. This, again, requires a cast, which is the next one. So both of these that were invalid, they require a cast. Yeah, so this one was invalid, required a cast below. This one was invalid, required a cast. And then on 12 through 22, most of you did pretty well on this, except I think almost everyone missed this one, 21. Dog, and I wrote on it, dogs can't prance, right? So reference type of dog, object type poodle, that again, any methods that are then called on D2, the methods have to exist in the reference type. If they exist in both, it's going to execute the object types method, but the reference type has to have it. So again, dogs can't prance. So that's kind of our motto for today. Okay, so again, if you all have any questions about these, please email me. Next week will be so much better when we can meet virtually. But again, I need some feedback. I'm just sitting in here in this big old empty house by myself waiting for feedback. So if, you know, let me know how things are going. So again, okay, so then I want to look at the inheritance worksheet. Okay, so again, and kind of what I talked about on the constructor, most of you did pretty well on this, except for, what was it? I think number 3. Yeah, so number 3. So again, even if a constructor does not have the super, for instance, derived extends base, more derived extends derived. So even though it is, there is not a super clause written right here, it is implied, okay? And again, that was briefly stated in your reading. That may not have been really clear. But so when this is a new derived, so it's going into the derived constructor, it sets age equal to 0, and it prints out age. But even though it doesn't say super, it is implied. So it's always going to go back up to super and print that out. So it's going to print, and I think I noted this on pretty much all you guys' packets. So default, it's going to print out default, then come back and print out age. So that came into play, I know, on number 3. A lot of you, 3, maybe 7, maybe 9, 11. And again, I kind of wrote it down for you guys. Overall, I think on that page, everything else you guys did pretty good. So just, again, I don't know how much the book stresses it, not much. I don't know, we didn't really talk about it, but if there's no super written, if it's inheriting, it's going to go, there might as well be a super. Okay, so it's implied. So it's always going to go back up and catch that other one. Let's see. Because most of you didn't do, let's see. Okay, well, again, let me know if you have questions about that. Okay. All right, so that's the first page. Second page, you guys did pretty good, except again, most of you got all of these right. Very few of you got 18 and I guess 17. I'm just going to go over 18 because it kind of, that was the most difficult one. So method 2, so again, F3 is a third and a first. So when it calls method 2, it is going to go to this method 2. Okay, it's going to go to the one that, I think, F3, method 2 is a third. Yes, it's going to go into this method 2. It's going to print Y, and then it's going to go to super method 2, which is right here, which is then, it calls super, so it goes here. But, okay, here's what happens. So then when it calls, so it's going to print that Y already. But then when it calls method 1, it's going to go to its object type method 1. So because it was a third, it's going to come back and do this method 1 first, print the X, go to super method 1, which is right here, that sends it up to here, then prints the 1, comes back, prints the A, then comes back to where it was called, prints the 2, then goes back where it was called and prints the V. So most of you, it was really just that X1A that people got confused about. So just, again, main thing about that is when it calls a method, it goes back to the object types method. So when it called, even though it was back in seconds, or no, actually when it was back in class first and it called method 1 without a super on it, it went to its own type of method 1, which was the third. So again, hope this makes sense. If not, send me an email. And again, when we meet virtually next week, we can talk about this more if you have questions. So 19 and 20, same thing, again, was the whole constructor thing. So when it, fruit, F1, new fruit, when it says show fruit, it is, oh, well, actually, so when it first says fruit, it's coming in, it's going to print apple. And then show fruit is going to print banana. So I think you guys did all right on that. And then on citrus fruit, when it comes in before it prints lime, again, even though it doesn't say super, it is implied. So even though it doesn't say super, it's going to come back up here, print apple, then print lime. And then when it does show fruit, again, super show fruit, it does banana, then orange. So I think you guys are all right on this. On this last one, everybody did really well. The answer key, I'm not sure what this really means, but the answer key is called those abstract. They wouldn't have to be abstract, but I did note that on your answer keys that they could be abstract. So but I don't think it's necessarily wrong if you didn't, because I think there's definitely well, I guess the reasoning there is that there's really no reason to instantiate a student or an underclassman or upperclassman. It really only makes sense to instantiate freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, because there's no, you wouldn't make a student who's not one of those. So I guess that kind of, in other words, you wouldn't have an upperclassman that was not a junior or senior, or you wouldn't have a freshman or sophomore that was not, or I mean, an underclassman that was not a freshman or sophomore. So, but anyway, and then they used array list, and you guys who did this used arrays, but again, for enrollment type things, it's probably better to get in the habit of thinking about it as an array list that can grow. You know, you could add and delete students. So, but anyway, it's okay if you did the array. And then homes was the same thing. So room itself was abstract, and then the other ones were just extended, and then a home is a list of rooms. Okay. All right. So hopefully, again, that explains that work. And again, this is hard stuff, I feel like, to kind of do on your own without my instruction. So just give me feedback as to how things are going. It is important, more so than other digital days, that when I assign something, you need to do it that day. We're trying, as a school, I think, not to have you guys just putting things off. So I am going to be on top of it, partly because I'm sitting home without much to do. So I am looking at grades and all that kind of stuff. So when I say it's due that day, you really need to do it that day. If there's extenuating circumstances, shoot me an email. I mean, definitely, if y'all got something going on or you've got other stuff you need to be doing, you know, just let me know. But definitely do to let me know. Okay, so today what we're going to look at, okay, so next class, what I'm going to write up for you guys is a bell ringer. So you're going to have one bell ringer number 9. So again, I'm not taking these for I'm not taking these for accuracy anymore, but just completeness, because I just want you guys to try to do it on your own without worrying about losing points at this point. Okay, and then I have another inheritance worksheet that's actually labeled a review, but it's, in fact, let me kind of show you all a little bit. This, okay, so this is a little review on inheritance. So this is just asking if they're valid or invalid. And I tell you what, just because there's so many of them, only label the ones that are invalid. So like keep it blank, because it gets a little bit hard to check. So like this first one actually is invalid because it's abstract. So it might be easier for all of us if you just put an invalid or an X or something on the ones that are invalid and just leave the valid ones blank, okay? And then there's a few true and false questions. Actually, you can, yeah. So those are just true and false. And then some more of those exercises about calling methods. So very similar to what we just did. So I do, so this, and I will write all this up, but I want you tomorrow during the school day to get the bell ringer and this worksheet finished. So consider that like kind of in-class time. And then I do, excuse me, I do have an FRQ that I want to give you guys that I want you to actually code in BlueJ, and it is the ticket walk-up advanced student advanced FRQ. So it's an FRQ, but it's also kind of made out into a little mini project type thing, or just more of an assignment that you can put in BlueJ. And I will be writing up what I want you to do, and I'll be sending you some code to get started with, especially the ticket test. I will give you code, and the abstract. Actually, the write-up itself gives you a lot of the code for that. But take a look at those. I don't want to say too much because I want you guys to take a look at it and see what you think. But so that will be your lesson for tomorrow. is, or for today, I guess, sorry, is the bell ringer, the little worksheet, and then this. And then when we get together on Tuesday, it'll be a virtual day, so I can answer any questions you guys have, and we are going to go over the review questions. So your homework will also be to do those Chapter 7 review questions, because then we are going to have a test on Thursday, a virtual test, like I said. So anyway, give me some feedback. If this is overwhelming, let me know. If y'all have questions, let me know, and I will, I'll see you. So anyway, hope you guys are staying well, being safe. And again, I do encourage you to play around with BlueJ. If you get bored, play around with Coding Bat. I will go ahead, and I'll talk to you all about it on Thursday. I'll go ahead and maybe assign more of those AP classroom things. I've been kind of waiting to kind of do those as a warm-up, as a review for the AP test. But anyway, we'll talk about it on Thursday, or I'm sorry, Tuesday. So hope you all staying well. Again, communication is key. So let me know how you guys are thinking about all this. All right. Thanks, and I will see you soon.